What do you expect in a fight against a guy like that?
Like he said, Tio's the truth. I'm the truth. We came up in the amateurs together. We used to win every tournament together. I don't see nobody beating me, and I can't wait to make the fight happen.
And I think Shakur is that good. I think that he can move up, and I think we are going to see him at 47 eventually. So moving up to 40 is not that crazy. What's crazy is that this is probably the most difficult fight out there for Shakur because of the style of Teofimo Lopez and being more accustomed to 140, but also the fact that he can punch and the fact that he's got a very high IQ, that he's super athletic, that he can box with you.
Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. Two names that carry weight in the boxing world. Two Olympians, two multi-division champions, two men who represent the future of the sport. For years, fans speculated, argued, and debated about what would happen if they met. Now, with the possibility closer than ever, the boxing community finds itself divided. Lopez brings explosive power and unorthodox athleticism, while Stevenson offers technical brilliance and defensive mastery. On paper, it looks like a pick-and fight, but when you break down the layers, the skill sets, the mentality, and the history, a clearer picture emerges. One where Shakur Stevenson has the edge.
I don't know, man. Because Teo's a tough guy to read. So, you're asking me to do something that I don't think a lot of people can read.
Paulie Malignaggi begins by highlighting how Josh Taylor was tough to read, and he uses that as a comparison point when discussing how to assess Shakur Stevenson. What Paulie is really saying here is that boxing often presents puzzles. Certain fighters carry styles that can't be easily decoded. Taylor was one of those, and Shakur, in a sense, is even more complex.
I think Shakur has wanted all the smoke for a while. He just hasn't been able to acquire the big names in the ring with him. But now I have to go up to 140. It's a guy who turned pro at featherweight. It's also difficult, man.
Here Paulie expands, saying Shakur wanted the biggest names for a long time, and now moving up to 140 presents both an opportunity and a challenge. This tells us two things. First, Shakur's hunger is real. He's never shied away from legacy-defining fights. Second, stepping up to fight a naturally bigger man like Lopez is inherently risky.
I think it's a great fight.
Yeah.
I think it's a great fight. You'll really see, because at the end of it, they're both Olympians. They're both multi-division world champions. Teo is an incredible fight.
Raleigh Romero describes this matchup as a great fight between two Olympians and multi-division world champs, while Raleigh frames both as incredible fighters. The subtext is important. Olympic backgrounds typically shape disciplined, technically sound fights. Both Lopez and Stevenson share this foundation, but only one of them has remained consistently disciplined: Shakur. Lopez has at times struggled with inconsistency, mental lapses, and in-ring decision-making, while Shakur has built a reputation for cold, methodical efficiency.
Shakur is an incredible fighter. Shakur has a really high boxing IQ and Shakur coming out with I'm telling you, it's gonna be a good fight. I like to see it.
Raleigh continues by praising Shakur, specifically pointing to his IQ again, while labeling both fighters incredible. This dual praise may appear balanced, but when examined deeply, it's clear where the edge lies. Lopez's greatness stems from explosiveness, that sudden shift from patient to devastating.
And I think Shakur is amazing, but it's not the easiest fight. But for Teo as well, you never know which version you're going to get, but when Teo is up against a guy of the level of a Shakur Stevenson, he tends to bring his best as well.
Paulie praises both fighters again, but raises the key point of Lopez's unpredictability. You never quite know which Teofimo will show up. Sometimes he's explosive and locked in. Other times he's flat, hesitant, and mentally scattered. Against Shakur, inconsistency is deadly. Shakur doesn't give you time to warm up or figure yourself out.
This is going to be, if it happens, a really interesting fight. I don't know how stylistically it'll gel, but it's a really, really good fight between two very, very good fighters.
Paulie closes by saying the fight itself would be really interesting, stylistically uncertain, but undeniably elite. And he's right. On paper, this matchup is fascinating because both fighters bring unique arsenals.
My only issue is, the loser's going to get more criticism than he deserves, because instead of getting, the credit for fighting one another, if this fight does happen, there's going to be a loser, obviously, and then that criticism is going to come down. Meantime,
Paulie raises an important concern: criticism of the loser. And he's right. In boxing, fighters are often punished for daring to step into great matchups. But this remark also highlights how both men are risking legacy, which means only the strongest mentality survives. Shakur Stevenson's mental fortitude is one of his greatest assets.
these are both guys that have a resume of wanting all the smoke. Have a history of wanting all the smoke. They want the tough fights, for the most part.
Hawley concludes his thought by praising both fighters for having resumes filled with tough fights and a willingness to take on challenge. That's undeniable. Both Lopez and Stevenson have consistently faced strong opposition, and both deserve credit.
So for so many years, when it was the Tank, it was Shakur, it was Devin, it was Teofimo, Ryan, and I was like, out of these two dudes...
The Ring magazine host made an interesting distinction when he looked at the long-standing crop of elite young fighters. Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, and of course, Shakur Stevenson. In his breakdown, he identified Shakur as perhaps the most naturally talented of the group, while Teofimo Lopez was seen as the most complete.
I always thought that Shakur was probably the most talented out the group, but I always thought that Teo was the most complete.
That framing is critical because it touches on the very essence of what makes this potential fight so intriguing. Talent implies God-given gifts, reflexes, vision, natural feel, defensive instincts, and time. These are things you can sharpen but not teach.
That you were the most physically talented, gifted athletically, but you were the most schooled defensively.
Max Kellerman sharpened this conversation by dividing the equation even further. He acknowledged Teofimo Lopez as perhaps the most physically gifted and athletically explosive of his generation, but also pointed out that Shakur Stevenson is the most schooled defensive. That contrast is exactly what this fight is about. Lopez is like a sprinter with incredible fast twitch muscles, able to explode into action and end a fight with a single shot.
I think Shakur is that good. I think that he can move up, and I think we are going to see him at 47 eventually. So moving up to 40 is not that crazy. What's crazy is that this is probably the most difficult fight out there for Shakur because of the style of Teofimo Lopez.
Chris, the analyst, raised a critical point about weight. He acknowledged that Shakur Stevenson is so talented that it's not unreasonable to expect him to rise as high as welterweight someday. Moving from 135 to 140, therefore, is not some reckless leap. It's a natural step.
Both these guys are incredibly talented. Both these guys are very athletic. Both these guys have a very high boxing IQ. But Teofimo having a little bit of a size advantage, being more accustomed to 140, but also the fact that he can punch and the fact that he's got a very high IQ, that he's super athletic, that he can box with you.
But Chris also noted that Lopez presents perhaps the toughest stylistic test Shakur could face at this new weight. Lopez has already been accustomed to 140, carries natural size, and possesses both punching power and tactical versatility. Those are not small advantages.
Is he going to outbox Shakur? Not necessarily, probably not. But if he cracks you, if he catches you,
he's
along
explosive.
with that boxing,
and along with the fact that Shakur is naturally smaller.
Chris continued his analysis by stressing that Lopez's explosiveness and dynamic athleticism might play a pivotal role in how the fight unfolds. He admitted outright that Lopez is unlikely to outbox Shakur. Few can, but he warned that Lopez's ability to land hard, clean shots could be the difference maker.
I think he's just a physically strong guy, and not that Shakur is not. I just find that the explosiveness and the athleticism of Teofimo is a little more dynamic. And I think that's going to play a part in how this fight shakes out.
When you piece all of this together, the talent versus completeness, the defensive schooling versus athletic explosiveness, the challenge of moving up, and the question of dynamism, the picture becomes clear. Teofimo Lopez is a great fighter. He has beaten champions, shocked the world before, and carries weapons that can end fights suddenly. But Shakur Stevenson is built for fights like this. His natural talent, his defensive discipline, and his ability to mentally drain opponents make him uniquely suited to neutralize everything Lopez brings.